We flew first class on both our flights from New York City to San Diego. Similar planes to Ryanair or Wizz Air. Big difference was the seats were a lot more comfortable, the food was a lot better, and because of the 3 time zones, we had 2 breakfasts, 1 on each flight. Can't beat that. The California desert was originally underwater many centuries ago, and as the waters receded, it left soil that is extremely fertile for growing crops. The only missing ingredient is water, which is imported via aqueducts from the Colorado River, allowing them to grow crops all year round. In-N-Out Burger is a hamburger chain of restaurants owned by a Christian family. They're mostly out in the western states of America, and they're known for having some of the best burgers in the world. They have a real simple menu, and whenever I get back to San Diego, my first stop is right there. Plenty of great Mexican food all over the county, but only a few In-N-Out burgers, so I make that my priority, and I look forward to it every time. All of their food is cooked fresh, nothing was ever frozen. They have an extremely simple menu too. Hamburgers, cheeseburgers, double, that's 2 patties and 2 slices of cheese. French fries and milkshakes and sodas. That's it. All good. They put Bible verse references on the bottoms of some of their packaging. Here you see John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that whoever believes in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. This verse says, though the righteous falls 7 times, he will rise again, but the wicked man will stumble when calamity strikes. Okay, we are here at Cabrillo National Monument. This is a panorama view looking down into San Diego Bay. This is the North Island Naval Air Station. You see the runway there. No planes taking off or landing right now. In the distance you see the downtown San Diego, which is on the other side of the bay. The bay, if you come in the entrance of the bay, which is right here, you go in there and then you do almost 180 and head south past the big buildings there and then into the bay itself. And if you look down here, this is the ocean. You see some high-rise condos on the water, and you'll see that thin strip of land. It's called the Strand. It's just about a couple hundred yards wide, beaches and a road, and it's really what separates the bay from the ocean.
I recorded this video a few years earlier on a trip back to San Diego. When I was first using my smartphone to take videos, I didn't realize you could turn it over on the side and get a wide angle. Anyway, if you look at the people and how they're dressed, you're probably thinking, yeah, this was shot sometime in the summer. But actually, no, this was January. The weather doesn't change a whole lot between January and June in San Diego, except there's actually more sunny weather in January than there is in June in San Diego. Here, something coming up now. If you watch carefully, you'll see that there's a seaplane coming in for a landing. Also here, you'll now see the skyscrapers, the tall buildings in San Diego. We call that panorama the skyline. That would be any view of a large city. Here we now see a close-up of that, some still photos of the skyscrapers. It's a very clean city compared to a lot of other cities in America. Oh, and here's the Star of India, an old sailing ship with an iron side that still sails every now and then. And of course here you see one of the more common sights in San Diego, palm trees everywhere. Here you see the San Diego Padres baseball stadium named Petco Park. Petco is a food company that makes food for pets. Anyway, it's one of the more beautiful ballparks in America, rated highly, not just because of the palm trees, but just the overall design. We next decided to take the coaster train north from San Diego to the city of Oceanside, California, which is also on the Pacific Ocean. In the next slide, we'll take a look at the map and explain a little bit more about the county. This map shows us some of the mass transit lines in San Diego County. The one that we took was called the Coaster. It's a train that runs up the coast from San Diego City, which you can see way down on the south end of the map. It runs for about 1 hour north to the city of Oceanside along the coast with some absolutely breathtaking views. The Santa Fe Railroad was one of the first railroads to come out all the way to the west coast. They built some incredibly beautiful train stations like this one right here.
Interstate 5.
The train now runs along what we would call an estuary or a lagoon. There's some scientific disagreement as to which this might be. Primarily, though, it's pools of water right next to the ocean with some amount of salinity or salt content in them. And it's very well preserved here in San Diego. There's several of them along the coast. This is one of about 5 or 6 in the county. Here we have a state beach, state park actually, with a parking lot there for people that want to go hiking in that lagoon or estuary. And now the coolest part of this trip is where the train goes underneath the highway and runs right along the beach. These cliffs are rather unstable. They're basically composed of sand, so they are prone to erosion. And of course, with the railroad tracks right next to them, it's a source of concern and something that the authorities are always looking into, especially after large rainstorms. And you can't quite see down on the beach, except for some spots here. There we go. Picking on up, we'll soon go inland just a little bit and miss this incredible view of the Pacific Ocean and the beach in the city of Del Mar.
Gentlemen, this is our next stop. This is Bermuda Station. This is your stop. Please be careful. You exit the train in Bermuda Station.
And we're coming into Oceanside. Final stop. On to the Oceanside Beach and Beer. Do a little sightseeing there.
So after we got off the train, we headed on over to the beach. We had time for a selfie, I think. Anyway, there's a pier that you'll see coming up now, and we walked on out on that. There's a number of piers that are going out into the Pacific Ocean from the coast, and we'll take a look in depth at one later on down in San Diego. Here you can see some condos to the north looking out from the pier. And now we're just south of the pier, and you'll see that there's no one really out in the water, and yet the beach is really, really crowded. You might be thinking, why aren't they out there swimming? Don't they know how to swim? Sure they do. The problem is the water's cold. It never warms up. One of the peculiar things about the Pacific Ocean, it doesn't have a warm water current like the Gulf Stream on the East Coast. Here is an aerial view of San Diego Bay, and to the south we see Imperial Beach, California, and if you look very closely you'll see a pier jutting out into the ocean.
Okay, Imperial Beach. Guys playing basketball in January. Well, it's about 25 out. 25 Celsius. Some condos. Beach. Pacific Ocean. Zoom in on Point Loma. Here's the pier. Remember when I said where was Bill when he took the pictures, right? You guys couldn't figure out if I was floating on water, right? Well, that's where I was, out there. This is Pier Plaza. Pretzels, t-shirts, sunglasses, Cowabunga. What is that? Oh, it's espresso and ice cream stuff. And let's walk out in the pier. And a quick panorama across the Ivy Shore. Mountains in the background. All the way out to Point Loma. The entrance to San Diego Bay, the entrance to the bay, is actually from the south. It does a complete 180 into the bay around the Point Loma Peninsula. But you can see that on Google Maps.
Many places in America are like Hungary. The landscape and the topography and the climate doesn't really change that much from county to county or even from state to state. But San Diego County is completely different, and we'll see that in the map coming up. If we travel east on the highway from San Diego City up into the mountains, after a 1 hour's drive we find that we're about 1,200 meters above sea level. But if we continue east, down into the Anza-Borrego Desert, we find that the elevation sharply drops back down to sea level. We traveled up into the mountains and stopped at a small town called Julian, California. At one time it was a gold mining town. Now it's just a restored traditional tourist attraction. Really beautiful place to visit. We had lunch at the Julian Cafe and Bakery. Home-style cooking and all the fixins, as they would say. And then we went across the street because this place called Mom's has the best apple pie and ice cream in the whole town. The drive from San Diego up to Julian is very gradual as it increases in elevation. However, the road from Julian downhill into Borrego Springs back to sea level is extremely steep, curvy, and, well, we didn't take any good video, but the motorcyclists who love a run on that road did, and I'll show you one. Obviously, it's not as exciting in a car as it is in a motorcycle, but at least you get an idea of how curvy the road is and how it goes downhill steeply. It's only about 30 kilometers from Julian down to Borrego Springs. It's about the same distance as Boya to János-Halma. Of course, there isn't much difference in temperature here in Bács-Kiskun, but a big difference between Julian and Borrego because it's down in the desert. We'll talk about that in a bit. On our way down the mountain, we were in an air-conditioned car, so Bela, who was with me, didn't realize how radical the temperature change was going to be. It was probably 25 in San Diego, still about 20, 21, 22 when we got to Julian. 45 minutes later, when we arrived in Borrego and he got out of the car, he discovered it was about 45 Celsius. Typical summer weather in the desert. The church you saw in the previous picture is featured here at night, beautiful, lit up at night. And again, there's not much light out in the desert, so when there is a light, it really shows things in a beautiful way. In the summer, there are no tourists in Borrego Springs, so the owners of this little inn decided to go on vacation, and they were gracious enough to let us stay there for free. The pool looked very inviting, but when it's 45 out, the water in the pool is not exactly a place where you can cool off. Here you have the sunrise lighting up the mountains to the west as you climb up out of Borrego back towards San Diego. You have a nice sunset coming up. There we go. Everything is like accentuated out in the desert, all the colors and the sky and everything else. We left Borrego Springs and went up the mountains to the west, which, as you can see, don't have any trees on them, unlike up in Julian. And we had a great panoramic view down across the desert floor.